Hi everybody. Okay, so let me get all the disclaimers out first. A, my washing machine is going. Sorry for the noise. It's right outside my bedroom door. There it goes. 2, I just got back from my Muay Thai boxing class, so I took a shower and I didn't want to put makeup on, so this is me, no makeup. And also I recorded this on Sunday and I just really didn't like what I said then. So I thought about it a little harder and I wrote something down on my tablet here. So I might look down. Maybe I'll hold it up so you guys can see my face. No, whatever. So so I have a better idea of what I want to say. So this is YouTube Pagan Challenge Week 6. And the question is, what are your cultural influences? And I just want to say that thank you so much to Seka Raven Inc. She's amazing artist, and her videos are so cool. And she gave me a shout out, which was really sweet, but she had trouble pronouncing my name. So I figured since my name has a little bit to do with my cultural influences, I would explain it and say my name. So my channel name is Sakura Noir. Sakura is a Japanese word for cherry blossom, and noir is the French word for black. So let me explain why I chose Sakura Noir. Now, Sakura is a Japanese word for cherry blossom. I got my little thing here. And Japanese culture has been really important to me for a long time. I mean, seriously, it's probably been since like elementary school. I've just really loved the art mainly, and then as I, got drawn more into the artwork, not just anime, traditional art, and especially the fashion and traditional textiles and stuff like that, calligraphy. It was just all so beautiful, and it just really drew me in at a very young age. And as I did more research and really learned about the culture over the years, I just fell more and more in love with it. And I'm actually learning Japanese right now. I took a class in college that was like 10 years ago. So I'm taking a new class at a community center here in my area, and it's a Japanese cultural institute. So I'm learning Japanese from a really great woman, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I'm looking at my notes here again. The culture there's so much tradition that I just loved, and their culture is so rich, and I love the ritual and the respect that you find within the Japanese culture. And so the reason why I pick Sakura, not only are cherry blossoms beautiful, and they have a time of the year, it's in the spring, usually between March and April. There's a time where pretty much all the cherry blossoms start to bloom. In early March, late February, they start to bloom down in like Okinawa and the south part of Japan, and then by the end of late April, they're blooming up in Hokkaido. So there's this great season of this wave of cherry blossoms blooming that goes through Japan, and there's a tradition of the hanami, which is going and cherry blossom viewing. And you go and you eat under the cherry blossoms and you have a picnic. But the cherry blossom is a really important symbol in Japanese tradition or Japanese culture. The cherry blossom only blooms for a short amount of time, and they're very delicate. A strong wind will rip them from the branches. So this is very famous to see in films and TV, the cherry blossom petals falling, and it almost looks like pink snow. It's just beautiful. And oh my gosh, oh no, did I forget the name of it? There's a term for what cherry blossoms represent. I want to say it's mono aware. I think it's mono aware. But anyway, I will write the correct phrase. I used to know it. I feel really bad. But essentially it translates to thing and awe. It's Yeah, but okay, so the particle is no, which means of. So the awe of things, or the things of awe, which pretty much means And awe is not like awe-inspiring. It's like awe, like, ah, like, and so it's the awe of things. So it's this idea of almost like transience, like nothing is permanent. It almost pulls on that Buddhist idea that, you know, live in the present moment, because things are constantly changing. Nothing is permanent. And cherry blossoms are a really big symbol of this, a kind of quick turnover of life, and you know, the blooming, and then they're beautiful, and then they die out just as quickly. So they're this great symbol of, you know, that kind of transience and just, you know, the impermanence of life, which I think is just really beautiful. And it's something that we should be inspired by, because you know, I found a great quote today. I wish I had it on me, but it was essentially like, we should love now, we should love hard, we should love loud, because soon we might die. So it's the same kind of idea, that live your life now and to the fullest and appreciate everything, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So that's kind of why I picked Sakura. So obviously, one of my cultural influences is Japanese culture. And then, uh-oh, I lost my page. The other part of my name is noir, which is the French word for black. Now, noir, and just the French in general, has been a big part of my life since I was even younger. Like, I don't know, second grade, I started ballet. And I would say that's when my obsession with France started. I was so obsessed with ballet. I wanted to be a classical dancer. I wanted to be a ballerina, and I took ballet for years and years and years. But because of that, I learned the language a little bit, as much as I could, and I really looked into their culture a lot, especially their the dance and art and fashion, and there's just so much that comes out of France, architecture, and there's just so much in their culture that I just love. And so that was another big influence on me, just personally. Let me see if I missed anything. Oh, and then, so just French culture so much, and especially films, I would say more recently, French films, especially Amélie, just, they touch me in a way, like they just speak to my soul. And especially, I don't know, there's something about the French language and the way it sounds, and it's just so, I just love it. It's just like water. I love it so much. And then the reason why I picked the word noir, so you know why I picked French, but why did I pick the word noir? Now, noir is kind of a nod to the closet goth within me. I was Gothic for many years in high school, and it's quite funny because I was in my deepest Gothic phase when I was super, super Christian. But there's something about Gothic culture or goth culture that I'm still kind of drawn to. This kind of fascination with the dark side of things, and the blackness and the mysteries of life, and kind of the deep brooding, not brooding, but the deep emotions that are not easily explained. And so noir, the word black, kind of pulls those images for me. That idea of the darkness and the mystery and the unseen things and the untalked about things in life. So that's a little nod to my little bit of a dark side. Okay, let me see. I have my next thing. So those are the cultural influences on my YouTube channel name, which is also my screen name for a lot of other things. I know it's my screen name for Instagram. So if you're looking for me, my Instagram is Sakura Noir. I believe it's all one word. So find me on Instagram if you like. But as far as my spiritual practice goes, I've got my trusty notes here. Cultures that have influenced my spiritual life. Let me just blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that's kind of influenced my, my spiritual life. I started out with Wicca, and really initially tried to follow Scott Cunningham's type of Wicca to a T. And with that, there was a lot of Celtic influence, which spoke to me so quickly because I have Scottish heritage. I know for a fact that my great-grandfather was born in Scotland, and then recently doing my family tree, I have great-grandparents, family, just a lot of family from Scotland in like 3 generations back. But anyway, so I have a lot of, oh, and then my great-grandmother on my other side was Scottish, so, and she was really proud of her Scottish heritage. So we're the Campbells, and so I know my clan is the Campbells, and I don't have my tartan yet, but I'm going to the Scots Fest this weekend, so I'm hoping maybe I'll get a tartan there. But anyway, so I've been raised with kind of Scottish pride, and growing up I listened to a lot of Scottish music. I loved bagpipes, I loved Celtic music. With that I kind of started loving Irish music, and my one grandmother was really into river dance, so a lot of like Celtic kind of stuff growing up. And I also kind of the Celtic and then the ballet side, I loved. That all came together to my extreme love of Enya. I absolutely love Enya. Like, I could just listen to her all day, every day. It's kind of silly. But, so she has this kind of spiritual tie with me. Like, I remember just listening to her music and being so moved by it. It's almost a spiritual experience for me. So, so when I started Wicca and Scott Cunningham started mentioning all these Celtic path work and stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is like awesome. This is my heritage. So definitely Scottish Celtic culture is part of my spiritual practice. Sorry, let me see. So the next thing, in my seeking, you know, I talked about in the How Did I Find My Path video that I found my path through an online quiz, and that the percentages, the top percentage was actually New Age, and the second percentage was Wicca Neo-Paganism, and I think underneath that was Universal Unitarianism. So within my spiritual journey and my seeking over the years, I initially started with Wicca, had a little bit of, I don't know, like a lull or a stagnation or whatever, but I wanted to make sure that Wicca was where I wanted to be. So I started seeking out a little bit more and looking into other things. And a big thing was kind of the New Age culture. So mainly a big person for me is Deepak Chopra. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I've read several of his books, and a lot of his stuff just works for me. One of the main things I could think about, it's from his, I think it's the 7 Keys to Success or 7 Steps to Success, his book. He talks about the field of pure potentiality. And this is one of the coolest things. There's a link to, on his website, to the law of pure potentiality, and I think I'll put that in the description because it's a really concise, short description of what it is and kind of how it works. But essentially, there's this energy field of pure potential. Anything can grow there. And so and I kind of use this within my spell work, is that when I want to manifest something, I visualize, I go to this field of pure potentiality, and that is where I plant my intentions, in this field where anything can grow, anything can come from it. It's pure potential. And you know, we as human beings are part of that field, so it's all about manipulating and you know, manifesting from this field of pure potentiality. And there's so many other things that, you know, he has taught me that I just really clicked and really resonated and really inspired me to just be a better person. Another thing, he was actually where I really got into chakras. And oh, I'm gonna run out of time soon. I might have to do this with a cut, so I'm gonna watch the clock. Anyway, so he was the one who really introduced me to chakras, and the whole system, and I have a great meditation that he does that walks you through, and he talks about what each chakra is about and everything. So Deepak Chopra and kind of new age culture has definitely influenced my spiritual practice, and I think I remember my last one, but I really don't want to rush through it. So I think I'm going to pause my camera and start it over. I'll see you. Okay, so my last cultural influence. Now this is kind of an interesting one because I don't know if it's necessarily a culture, but astronomy, just astronomy, has been a big part of my spirituality. And I don't know if you'd call it a culture, but it's been a huge influence on me. So Carl Sagan is a huge, huge influence. I'm going to link the video for the pale blue dot below. Please watch the pale blue dot. The pale blue dot is just an excerpt. It's just one part of one of his books. But it's so, whenever I listen to it or read it, it's just so, it just touches me, and it humbles you so much to think of how small and kind of insignificant we are, and how incredibly unique our life experiences here on Earth. The universe is vast, and oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get totally on a tangent talking about astronomy, but anyway, so astronomy spoke to me since I was a very young child. When I was in junior high, I wanted to be, when I was in elementary school, I wanted to be a ballerina and an astronaut. I wanted to go to outer space. And then once I got to junior high and realized that astronaut was probably kind of lofty, I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. And so I've been like on this thing with like outer space. I had a whole separate path through high school that kind of led me away from the possibility of being in aerospace, but I'm still like just completely in love with it. The show Cosmos is like my Bible. Like, it's so inspiring, and it just makes me so, it's weird because it's not necessarily, it makes me happy, but it's like that weird kind of like deep happiness. Like, I'm not sitting there going hee hee hee. It's like really like this is good. This is life, and this is the universe, and this is spirituality, and this is how, you know, spiritual connection feels for me when I, you know, even just like browsing through pictures on NASA of, you know, photographs from the Hubble or any of the other deep space telescopes, and just seeing what's out there. And it's just incredible. And as a little kid, one of my favorite things to do was look through a telescope at Jupiter and Saturn and Mars and the moon, and seeing these things that are so far away and being able to see them so up close. And meteor showers are a huge thing for me. They're like every time one flashes by, it's just like, I get so inspired, and it just is so moving to me. So astronomy, not necessarily a culture, but a huge influence on my practice. And even, let me see if there's anything else. Also, I'm glad I wrote this down. The constellations are a huge thing for me. I remember learning about them in like 3rd grade in Girl Scouts or something like that. And ever since, they're like my friends. And I know everyone knows him, and he's very easy to see. But Orion has got to be one of my favorites, simply because he is so easy to see. And he comes out during the winter, which is when it's really dark. And, you know, sometimes I know I've, in the past, when I'm having a tough time or I'm feeling scared, I look up at Orion and I just feel like he's looking out for me, or he's watching over me, or protecting me. It's something strange, because I have this weird blend of, I know that Orion is a bunch of stars. It's not really a man in the sky, but there's something about being able to marry that idea of seeing the stars and knowing what they are, but at the same time honoring the images that they portray. and pulling those energies from the images to bring comfort or confidence or other things to my life. So, sorry, I could ramble on and on and on about my astronomical spirituality. Let's see if there's anything else. Yes, that's a big one. And yeah, I'm obsessed with outer space. Here I go again. I haven't yet, but I'm dying to go to a sensory deprivation spa. They have one here in my town. And you go in and the water is a 50% salt solution. So you float without any effort. And it's completely pitch black. And they give you earplugs so you can't hear anything, you can't see anything, and you're floating weightless. My husband's scared to death of it. But I'm so like itching to go. I want to go so bad because I feel like that's the closest experience I'll be able to get to just floating in outer space. And that's like a dream of mine or like a need of mine. Like there's some sort of weird connection where I've talked with one of my friends about this, and we think that I may have in some sort of other life been from another planet or something, or like a space entity or something like that, because when I see the stars or I see images of deep space, I'm just like, God, I need to be there. I need to be there. So yeah, it's kind of strange, but out of anything, that's what speaks to me the most. So that's a huge thing for me. So anyway, that's kind of what I wrote down, what I kind of thought of. And one last point is that I know a lot of people have issues with cultural appropriation and people picking and choosing from different religions. But I think a thing with me, and discussing with my husband, that I feel like I've done a lot of seeking over the years. I've studied Wicca, I've studied Buddhism, I've studied Shinto, I've studied Hinduism. Once I found out about Deepak Chopra and I read some of his books, I started looking to Hinduism and I did study it. And I never really practiced it, but I really learned as much as I could. And the same goes for Shinto and Buddhism, several different types of Buddhism. I've even, read about Islam and Judaism, and I grew up Christian, so I know that. But as I've done all this studying, and some of the things that I have practiced, like I practiced being Buddhist for a very short while, but I did, and I feel like all of these things, it would be a shame for me to learn all those things and then just forget it and just be like, well, I'm not following that, so I may as well just disregard it. If I learn something from another spirituality and I feel that it's beneficial to me personally, then why should I discard it? I'm not hurting anyone. I mean, there goes my cat. I don't know. Let me know if I'm hurting you by kind of mixing and matching. I will probably continue to do it because I'm solitary and I really don't see the issue with it. But it's something that I kind of got from Universal Unitarianism, is that, I went there to church for a while, to a Universal Unitarian church, and their philosophy is really interesting. I went, and it was actually, I think it was Beltane, one of the days that I went a few years ago, and all the kids were doing a maypole, and they were doing Beltane stuff. They were learning about Beltane in the Sunday school, while the parents they weren't really doing Beltane in the main hall. But what's really interesting is they're talking about, I forget what the thing was. It was like forgiveness or something like that. But they bring up scriptures from the Bible and lessons that Jesus brought. And then they'll talk about the Buddha and a teaching from the Buddha. And then they're like, oh, and there's this great thing from, you know, this philosopher or Carl Jung or something like, you know, they bring in so many different aspects, and they do it with honor and respect. You know, they find the good parts in, you know, any religion or philosophy, and they bring that in and really meld it together to make a really beautiful religion. My husband most closely identifies with Universal Unitarianism. We don't go to church, but or he's a humanist. Either way. But yeah, so a part of me really likes that part of Universal Unitarianism, where I feel like it's important almost to learn as much as we can about each other's religions and beliefs and philosophies, and bring together and, you know, really honor the positive and be optimistic about sharing each other's views and beliefs. So anyway, I rambled on for very, very long. I hope you've enjoyed learning about all my cultural influences and everything that makes me me, and a little bit of my personal influences, a little bit of my spiritual influences. But anyway, so again, I hope you liked it. I'm really excited to watch more of everybody's videos. Everybody was super on time this week, and I'm super late. So I've been watching your videos, and it's really cool to see what everyone else has got to say. And so, yeah, I will see you next week for week 7. Bye!